It was the final morning of the summit outside Austin. 3 days of panels, networking mixers, tech demos, and glossy smiles that never quite reached anyone's eyes. I hadn't intended to get there early. In fact, I'd barely slept the night before. Something about the hotel bed felt foreign in all the wrong ways. Too soft. Too empty. I woke up around 5:30, stared at the ceiling for an hour, then gave up and got dressed. I remember thinking the coffee was terrible. Watery, burnt like the kind they serve in waiting rooms at auto shops. Still, I sipped it as I wandered the back hallways of the convention center, away from the main ballroom. No real destination, just walking, thinking, pretending I didn't feel the way I did. Like something was pressing on my chest that had nothing to do with caffeine or lack of sleep. Lauren had flown in the day before me, said she had a few prep meetings with her team and some vendor calls she couldn't miss. I believed her. I always had. She was one of those people who could make you feel dumb for even questioning her, not by being mean or defensive but just confident, disarming. I knew she'd be speaking on a panel later that day. The future of AI in personalized healthcare. Something like that. I planned to be there, front row like always. Supportive husband, right? That had been my role for years. When people asked what I did, I'd half joke that my full-time job was keeping up with Lauren. She was the rising star, the deal closer, the type who walked into a room and didn't need to announce herself. People just noticed. But lately something had changed. Subtle things. The way her phone was always in her hand, even during dinner. The way she started locking her screen when she got up. The business trips that doubled in frequency. Board advisory stuff, she'd say with a tired sigh. You know how it is. And I'd nod because no, I didn't know how it was. But I wanted to be the guy who trusted his wife. Who didn't need to ask twice. I don't know what drew me to the back corridor near the loading dock. Maybe just the quiet. Maybe something else. The hallway was dimly lit, with high ceilings and concrete floors that echoed footsteps. I paused near one of the exit doors, sipping my coffee, scrolling pointlessly through emails. That's when I heard her voice. Familiar, soft, relaxed in a way I hadn't heard in a while. She was just on the other side of the door, standing in the shadow of a concrete column. I didn't see her, not yet, but I'd know that voice anywhere. I froze. She was talking to someone. A man. His voice was lower, slower. He called her by her name, not Babe or Han, just Lauren. But the way he said it felt practiced. You made it, he said, almost teasing. Barely, she replied with a smile I could hear in her voice. My flight got in late last night. I was supposed to be on calls until midnight, but, let me guess, he interrupted. You managed to clear your schedule. There was a pause. You always were good at slipping away, he added. Lauren laughed. That soft, throaty laugh she used when she was playing coy. The one that used to be reserved for me. But this wasn't the laugh she used in boardrooms or with colleagues. This was *mate. Familiar in a way that didn't belong to strangers. I still tell him I'm in meetings, she said, and her voice dropped slightly conspiratorial. He doesn't ask questions. Makes it easy. My hand tightened around the paper coffee cup until it crumpled slightly. The man chuckled. You're dangerous, you know that? Only if someone's not paying attention, she said. I didn't breathe. My body went cold, but my face burned. I don't know what I expected. Maybe some logical explanation that would come rushing to fill the silence. Some innocent context I'd missed. But nothing came. Just her voice, fading now as she said something about getting back inside before anyone noticed. I stepped around the corner just in time to see her alone again, standing with her back straight, phone in hand, tapping through emails like the last 5 minutes hadn't happened. She was dressed the way she always was for events like this, elegant but professional. Sleek blazer, hair pulled back, lipstick understated. She glanced up and saw me. Her eyes widened for the briefest moment. A flicker of surprise she couldn't quite hide, then smoothed into a warm smile. Hey, what are you doing back here? I opened my mouth, but no words came. I thought you were sleeping in, she added casually. You okay? I nodded. She leaned in and kissed me on the cheek, the kind of kiss you give a colleague, not a husband. I'm just heading to check in. You want to grab a seat for the panel? Sure, I said. My voice sounded strange to my own ears. She smiled again and turned down the hallway, heels echoing on the tile. I watched her go, my coffee forgotten in my hand, now lukewarm and bitter. Everything around me kept moving, the distant murmur of voices, the clink of water glasses being set up in the next room, the hum of overhead lights, but something inside me had gone quiet. Still, in a matter of seconds, everything I thought I knew about her, about us, had shifted. It was like realizing you'd been reading the wrong version of the story the whole time. The plot points were the same, but the context had changed. A shadow cast over the familiar scenes, and suddenly, they didn't feel safe anymore. Was it one conversation? No, it was a confirmation. A puzzle piece finally clicking into place, making the whole picture come into focus. She had been someone else all along, or maybe just someone I didn't want to see clearly until I had no choice. And now I couldn't unhear her words. I sat through her panel like a ghost. She was on stage, poised and articulate, fielding questions with ease. Her voice steady and confident, as if nothing had shifted between us just hours earlier. She had the audience in the palm of her hand, laughing at her jokes, nodding thoughtfully at her insights. I watched her in a way I never had before, not as the woman I loved, but as a stranger I was only beginning to see clearly. And as I watched, I started remembering things. Details that had slipped by me at the time, little things that once seemed harmless, forgettable, normal, only now they weren't, like how she started bringing her phone to the bathroom, even during short showers. At first I'd laughed and called her addicted to her inbox. She joked about being married to work, but over time her phone had become something else, glued to her hand, face down on the nightstand, always on silent. The messages that came in at odd hours, even when we were on vacation, had started to sound different. She used to read them out loud if they were funny or annoying. But lately, she'd just glance at them and step out of the room. No explanation. I told myself it was just stress. I remember one night, a Thursday, she came home from a supposed late client dinner looking radiant. Not tired, like someone who had been fighting for a contract all day. Her hair was freshly curled. She wore that scent, the expensive floral perfume I'd given her for our 5th anniversary. She used to save it for special nights, date nights, but recently, I'd catch it lingering on her scarf on random Tuesdays. That same night, she tossed her work bag on the kitchen counter. I reached to help her carry it upstairs and noticed it was practically empty. No laptop, no files, nothing but a lipstick and a charger. I asked if she'd forgotten her laptop. She said, "Oh, it's at the office. I didn't need it tonight." I wanted to believe her. I always wanted to believe her. The signs were all there. I just didn't want to connect them. Then there were the business trips. They started out like any other, a day or two away, maybe a weekend conference. But they became more frequent, longer. A few even fell over our anniversary week. She apologized and promised we'd make it up next month. We never did. One trip in particular came flooding back while I sat in that conference room, numb to the applause around me. She'd gone to Chicago in March, said it was a last-minute opportunity to meet with investors. I remember how cold it had been that week, how I offered to drive her to the airport, and she declined, said it was easier to Uber so I wouldn't have to deal with the traffic. When she came back, she was quiet, tired, said the meetings were exhausting. 2 days later, I'd found a receipt in her purse from an Italian restaurant, handwritten with a note scribbled at the bottom. Next time, desserts on me, winking face, D. We'd never been to that restaurant. In fact, she didn't even like Italian. I asked her about it. She blinked, smiled too quickly, and said it must have been a team thing, that the waiter must have written that on all the checks. They're just being playful, she said. I told myself not to make a big deal of it. The reality is, I didn't want to be that guy, the paranoid husband who checks phone logs, who gets suspicious over inside jokes and restaurant notes. That wasn't me. That wasn't who we were. Or so I thought. The most painful part wasn't the possibility that she had been cheating. It was realizing I had been gaslighting myself for months just to preserve the image of our marriage. Every late night, she said, was work. Every weekend, strategy meeting. Every emergency Zoom call I wasn't allowed to walk in on. It all started stacking in my mind, one quiet inconsistency after another, each now screaming for my attention. I remembered how she started talking more about privacy, how we all needed boundaries, how just because we were married didn't mean we had to share everything. I agreed with her at the time. It sounded mature, evolved, but now it felt like a shield, a line she drew to keep me out of something I wasn't supposed to see. And maybe worst of all, I remembered how present she had been with me during those same months, overly present at times, like when she surprised me with tickets to a concert I mentioned 6 months prior, or when she suggested we try couples yoga. I thought it was sweet, thought maybe we were just entering a new chapter, but now felt like compensation, a calculated effort to stay just believable enough. The applause brought me back to the present. Her panel had wrapped, and she was stepping down from the stage. She scanned the crowd and found me, waved. I waved back. Everything she did felt like it was filtered through a script, like she was performing a version of the woman I'd fallen in love with, but the role no longer fit. It was too smooth, too rehearsed. Later, as we walked the expo floor together, I tried to keep things casual. Asked about the panel. She beamed, told me she nailed it. "You think I did okay?" she asked, almost girlishly. "You always do," I replied, and I meant it, because the truth is, Lauren was exceptional at what she did. Not just professionally, but personally. She could sell you anything, especially the idea that everything was fine, that nothing had changed. She held my hand as we walked, talked about possibly extending the trip by a day, said she'd earned a little break. "We could go into the city," she said. "Stay at that place we liked last year. Remember?" I nodded, but my mind wasn't there anymore. It was at the corner of that hallway this morning, where her voice turned soft, and her secrets came undone in a few offhand words, where everything started to fall into place. That moment had become a kind of prism, and now every past memory passed through it, refracted into something I couldn't ignore. Nothing had changed, except everything. The day I saw them together, I was supposed to be across town. I'd taken a meeting with a new client at a cafe in South Congress, but they rescheduled last minute, and instead of heading back to the office, I went home. Just instinct, I guess. Maybe something in me wanted to test her. The house was quiet when I walked in. Too quiet. No music. No podcasts playing in the background like usual. Just stillness, the kind that doesn't feel peaceful but staged. I remember the sound of laughter coming from the kitchen. A low chuckle, a man's. Then her voice, airy and flirtatious in a way I hadn't heard in months. Maybe longer. I stepped into the doorway, and there they were. He was barefoot, holding her favorite mug. The white ceramic one with the tiny crack near the handle that she refused to throw away. The one I used to bring her coffee in every morning before work. He stood at the island like he belonged there, casually leaning against the counter like this wasn't his first time. And she was in leggings and a soft gray sweater that hugged her frame just enough to look accidental. But I knew her. That outfit wasn't thrown together. Her hair was tied back loosely, her skin glowing, like she had just come from the kind of spa you needed a 2-month waitlist for. She didn't see me at first. She was laughing at something he said, placing a hand lightly on his back. A gesture so natural, so unconsciously familiar, that I knew it had been done before. Their bodies moved in sync, like muscle memory. And then she looked up. She saw me. Her eyes widened, not in surprise at being caught with a man in our home, but in shock that I had arrived early. That was the part that broke me. She wasn't embarrassed about him. She was startled by me. "Hey," she said too quickly, her voice pitched higher than usual. "You're home early." I said nothing. The man, tall, maybe my age, maybe a little younger, turned around slowly. He didn't flinch, didn't even apologize, just set the mug down on the counter, giving me this tight-lipped nod, like we were meeting at a dinner party and not in the middle of my own kitchen. I looked at Lauren. Her posture shifted subtly. from relaxed to alert. Her smile froze in place, and I could see the gears turning behind her eyes. "Mark," she said gently. I don't need his name," I cut in. Silence. The weight in the room shifted. The man, whoever he was, stepped back, suddenly unsure of himself. Good. I wanted him to feel that edge. I wanted him to sense how completely he didn't belong there. I didn't yell. I didn't ask questions. I just stood there, absorbing it all, the mug in his hand, the way she placed herself slightly between us, like she wasn't sure which direction things were about to go. The echo of her laugh still hanging in the room. It was strange, how quiet everything was. I'd imagined this moment before, in darker hours, lying in bed while she typed on her phone with the screen tilted away. I pictured it with shouts, accusations, broken dishes. But reality was colder, quieter, like watching a door close behind you, slowly and inevitably. "I'll come back later," I said. She stepped toward me. "Wait, Mark, please, let's..." But I was already turning. "I need to think," I said. "Don't follow me." She didn't. I got in my car and sat there for a long time, engine off, keys still in my hand. My heartbeat was calm, too calm, like my body hadn't caught up to what my eyes had just seen. I stared out at the street, the same street we'd lived on for 7 years. The same one we used to walk after dinner, hand in hand. The place where we imagined building a family, hosting backyard parties, growing old. All of it felt fake now. I should have seen it sooner. The signs hadn't been subtle, not really. I just hadn't wanted to face them. Not until the moment I walked into our kitchen and saw her with him. Saw the way she looked at him. It wasn't lust. It wasn't even infatuation. It was comfort, familiarity, like he belonged in that moment with her. Like I didn't. I drove aimlessly after that, through the back roads of our neighborhood, past the grocery store we used to shop at together, past the gym she joined and then stopped going to. I passed the spot where she once made me pull over just to kiss me in the middle of a thunderstorm. It had felt spontaneous then, electric, real. Now I wondered if even that had been real, or just another one of her moments. One of many. Eventually, I parked outside an old diner we used to visit when we were still dating. I didn't go in. I just sat there, watching the neon signs flicker in the window, watching people come and go. Everyone else's life moved forward. Mine had just snapped in half. I replayed the scene in my mind over and over. The mug, her hand on his back, the sound of their laughter. I couldn't unsee it. There was no question left to ask, no doubt left to hold. This wasn't emotional distance or a misunderstanding. It wasn't a work friendship taken too far. This was a choice, pattern, something she had built and nurtured right under my nose. And somehow, in that moment, I didn't feel rage. I felt clarity, painful, cold clarity. She had replaced me, not with someone better, but someone closer to whatever version of herself she had become without me. Someone who fit into the new reality she'd been crafting behind locked screens and vague answers. Maybe she'd tell herself it just happened, that she didn't mean for it to get this far, that she had tried. But she hadn't tried with me. She had tried to keep me unaware. And for a while it had worked, until I walked into the kitchen, until I saw the truth, unspoken and undeniable. Not in the words they said, but in the way she looked at him. I didn't go home that night. I didn't tell her where I was. I didn't call, didn't text. I turned off my phone somewhere around 9 p.m. and checked into a small business class hotel near the freeway. It was the kind of place where the vending machine hums louder than the air conditioner, where the pillows are too thin and the silence inside the room has a weight to it. But I needed silence. I needed space to understand what had just happened, and more importantly, what it meant. I lay on the stiff mattress, fully clothed, staring at the ceiling for hours. No TV. No distractions. Just the memory of her voice in that hallway and the image of her standing beside him in our kitchen. A place we designed together. A place that had once been the heart of us. Now it just felt like a stage where the final scene had played out. There was no fight. That's what haunted me most. No raised voices. No dramatic confrontations. No slamming doors. Just distance. I thought I'd feel fury, but I didn't. I thought I'd want to demand answers, scream, ask her how long it had been going on. But the truth was I already knew. Maybe not the timeline, not the who or the where, but I knew enough. Enough to know she'd left me a long time ago, long before she ever let another man into our home. The betrayal didn't start in the kitchen. It started with the small, quiet choices she made, the ones she didn't think I noticed, the way her eyes drifted during our conversations. The nights she came home smelling like someone else's cologne but insisted it was from a client's hug, the forced smiles, the sudden decline in I love yous, all the ways she slowly exited the relationship while keeping the appearance intact. When I finally turned my phone back on the next morning, I had 3 messages from her. Lauren, 9:42 p.m. Where are you? 10:18 p.m. Please come home. I want to talk. 1:07 a.m. I'm sorry. Can we please just talk? I stared at them for a long time, then put the phone face down on the nightstand and didn't reply. I didn't need to hear more words. I'd seen the truth in her actions. And once you see it, you can't go back. You can't talk your way out of what's been witnessed. Her apology might have been sincere. It might have been desperate. But it was late. It was reaction, not remorse. When I walked into the house later that day, it looked exactly the same. Same furniture. Same smell of vanilla from the candle she always lit in the afternoons. But everything felt different. She was in the kitchen again. Alone this time. Standing by the sink like she was waiting for me. She turned the moment I walked in. Mark, she said softly. Can we talk? I nodded, but I didn't sit down. She launched into it quickly, like she had practiced it all night. I didn't mean for you to find out like that, she said. It wasn't supposed to. I don't know. Get to this point. I messed up. I know that. I made a mistake. I said nothing. I thought I had it under control, she added, her voice trembling slightly. I didn't think. You didn't think I'd notice? I interrupted, finally looking her in the eye. She froze. Her lip twitched like she wanted to respond, but couldn't find the words. That's the part that stings most, I said quietly. Not that it happened. Not even that it happened here. It's that you thought I was too blind or too trusting to ever see it. She stepped forward slightly. Mark, please. I was confused. I've been confused for a while. I took a step back. I'm not here to argue, Lauren, I said. I'm not here to make you explain yourself. I just needed to see you. To know that us really ended. Her voice cracked. It hasn't. It has, I replied. And it had. Not because I hated her. Not because I couldn't forgive a mistake. But because what had broken between us wasn't just trust. It was understanding. Respect. The feeling that we were on the same team, facing the world together. Now it felt like I'd been on the field alone. She didn't cry, not then. She just nodded slowly and whispered, okay. For the next few days, we coexisted in the same space like 2 people stuck in an airport during a storm. Polite, avoidant. She made dinner the second night. Asked if I wanted some. I said no. She cleaned the kitchen, watered the plants, watched TV alone. It wasn't tension. It wasn't hostility. It was vacancy. I caught her once, staring at me from the hallway as I typed on my laptop. When I looked up, she looked away. She stopped locking her phone, started leaving it face up. Too late. I wasn't checking anymore. I didn't want more proof. Proof hadn't saved us. One night, I sat in the backyard with a blanket and a bottle of wine we'd been saving for our next anniversary. I opened it alone, let it breathe, sipped it while watching the stars dim behind the city lights. She came outside quietly, sat a few feet away, didn't say anything. For once, the silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was honest. And that's when I knew. We'd crossed into something final, something irreversible. Not loud or dramatic, but definite. There wouldn't be a fight. There wouldn't be screaming or name-calling. There would just be distance. And that would be enough to end us. It started with small gestures, the kind she used to do without thinking, back when we were still us. She made breakfast 2 mornings in a row. French toast the first day. scrambled eggs and avocado the next. Both times, she placed my plate on the table quietly, without a word, as if hoping the food might speak for her. I didn't comment. I ate it the first morning more out of habit than gratitude. Left it untouched the second. She started wearing my favorite sweater around the house. The oversized navy one she used to borrow and never return. It hung off her shoulders like it used to, as if she could slip back into the role of the woman I once adored simply by putting on the costume. She began playing our old playlists in the background, softly enough that it seemed incidental. Songs from our early road trips, our first apartment. Songs she used to sing along to with her feet on the dashboard, sunlight hitting her face like some kind of movie still. But now it felt staged, like she was trying to rewind a tape that had already snapped in half. She started sending me memes again, the kind of random, funny posts we used to text each other during the workday just to make the other person smile. Except now they came without context. No caption, no comment, just an echo of a connection that no longer lived in the space between us. Then came the memory triggers, the subtle mentions of our early years. Remember that Airbnb in Santa Fe with the broken fireplace? Or, I saw someone today who looked just like your old college roommate. Casual callbacks, dropped into conversations like breadcrumbs back to something warmer. But I didn't follow. I didn't take the bait, because none of it felt real anymore. It felt like she was rehearsing the role of a devoted wife, not living it. She offered to do laundry, folded my clothes more carefully than before, asked if I wanted to go hiking like we used to on Sunday mornings, suggested we drive to the farmer's market, just the two of us. She even texted me while I was in the garage fixing a leak under the water heater. Lauren, still your favorite plumber? I didn't respond. She lingered longer in rooms, trying to spark conversations that didn't ignite. Started smiling more, that bright, practiced smile that once felt like home but now felt like a photograph someone else had taken years ago. I found her one afternoon rearranging the bookshelf in the living room, our bookshelf. The one we used to argue over every time we moved, because I refused to part with old paperbacks and she insisted on alphabetizing everything. Now, she was dusting off the jackets, setting titles upright with precision, pausing every so often to read the inside covers like she was reacquainting herself with a past she'd neglected. She pulled out our wedding album from the cabinet below and placed it on the table. Didn't open it, just left it there, centered. By the end of the week, she was planning weekend trips again. Maybe we could drive out to that cabin by the lake? She said one night while standing in the doorway of the bedroom. They renovated the place. It's beautiful now. I looked up from my book. We haven't been there in years. I know, she said softly. Thought it might be nice, just to get away. I nodded once, said nothing. She didn't bring it up again. The thing is, if this had all happened 6 months ago, maybe even 3, it might have worked. The small acts of repair, the returned attention, the reminder of history, it might have reached me back then. But I wasn't that man anymore. And she wasn't that woman. She wasn't trying to rebuild us. She was trying to recreate a version of us she thought I still wanted. But it was just an echo, a ghost of something that had already drifted too far. One night, I came home late after clearing my head at a friend's garage. When I walked in, the lights were dimmed. Candles flickered on the table. A record played in the background, one of the few vinyls we both loved. She'd cooked. Real cooking. Not the usual quick pasta or takeout. Roasted chicken. A salad with citrus vinaigrette. Her attempt at my mom's garlic mashed potatoes, even though she used to make fun of how buttery they were. She stepped into the hallway wearing that green dress. The one from our 3rd anniversary dinner. The one that once turned every head in the room when she walked in beside me. Her hair curled the way I liked it. A nervous smile on her face. I thought maybe we could just pretend it's 3 years ago, she said. I looked at the table, then at her. It's not, I said. Her smile faltered, just a bit. I know, she whispered. I just wanted to try. I didn't sit down. I can't pretend, I told her. That's the difference between you and me. I don't know how to pretend something didn't happen. Her shoulders dropped, just slightly. It wasn't pretend for me. Yes, it was, I replied softer now. All of this. It's a performance. And you're good at it. You always have been. But I don't need a performance. I needed truth. And you gave that to someone else. She didn't respond. She just nodded slowly and turned off the record player, the music cutting off mid-verse. The silence that followed felt heavier than any shouting match could have been. That night, I found her asleep on the couch, still in the green dress, her makeup smudged at the corners of her eyes. A single-place setting sat on the dining table, my plate, untouched. The candles had long since burned down to puddles of wax. It hit me then. She wasn't trying to win me back. She was trying to erase the space between who she had become and who she used to be, and hoping I'd forget the difference. But I remembered. I remembered everything, and there was no going back. I stopped responding even when she tried. Her words slid off me like water on glass. I watched her drift through the house, quieter now, like she was living in a museum of our past. One night, I found her in the closet, holding our wedding photo. She didn't speak. Neither did I. We were two strangers bound by memory, and nothing else. At a dinner with her friends, she joked I was too calm to be real. Everyone laughed. I didn't. I stood up, left, and never looked back. She called out after me, her voice thin and cracking. From that night on, I was still in the house, but not in the marriage. She kept trying. I stopped pretending. And slowly, the silence replaced everything we used to be.